on the cloud. Okay. So we want to essentially just encourage our students to breathe. Okay. And someone did it really well in their video, and I can't remember, it was probably most of you, but even if you forget to cue breath, inhale, exhale, take a moment to stop in your Tadasana and then say, come back to your breath. Just notice. Those grounding moments are also incredibly, incredibly useful. You're still bringing awareness to the breath. Coming into the pose, remember to breathe. And little reminders. As you become more comfortable, you can definitely bring inhales and exhales in. I find it was really helpful in my teaching, and you'll find that for you. Madly.
I just want to say thank you for making that clear, because I feel like so stupid that I just can't get my breath the right way. I can just never do it after all these years. And I must say, if I listen to a teacher and they do the breathing thing, they confuse me more, especially when I was younger. I was just like, I have to breathe, I have to, and then I forget the pose, and then so yeah, thank you. That's pretty cool to know that it's not that big a deal. It's not,
breathing
doesn't break your practice if you don't breathe exactly the inhale and the out.
So I would, and someone who has practiced more traditional hatha forms, there were certain poses that were supposed to be done on inhale. There's definitely benefits in that. And we see it in the vinyasa style when you move breath to movement. Ashtanga specifically as a style, breath is movement. Inhale, exhale, hold for 5 breaths. And so there is value in it. I'm just telling you guys, it's not the only way. It's not like if you don't do it this way, sorry. I think that if you are feeling like this, your students are definitely feeling like this. Okay. So your own experience, someone is having the same one. And so also some teachers cue breath differently. So if you practice with different teachers, you're getting different inputs. So for me, I've actually just found trusting my own, empowering myself to learn my own breathing, I develop within my body. And that's kind of been useful. Dee.
Laura, I've been in yoga classes where it's been breathwork pranayama has been introduced at the beginning of the class as a standard. And quite a few things like alternate nostril breathing, and then going like straight into dragon breath, and then a whole lot of different, like maybe 20 minutes. And I was kind of under the impression that it was almost kind of mandatory and expected in the beginning of a yoga class. Should I get rid of that idea?
Definitely not mandatory. I think, especially in the style that we teach, which is vinyasa, which has a lot of freedom in teaching with the choreography and the way that you link styles together. Look, there's definitely reason in starting the class with pranayama, but I'm a big advocate that unless you are 100% sure on the type of breathing technique, doing it, and the intention behind it, if you're not sure on that, it's probably best to not teach it. Okay, just because you could have a breathing technique that's really calming and then doing something like Kapalabhati, which is quite alerting of sorts. And look, there's teachers teach it, people who practice it obviously like that. That's why I'm saying there's no set formula, there's no set rules as to such what to do. What I have found is that starting a practice with breath awareness brings you onto your mat, and ending it in a way that leaves you in a sympathetic state or calms the nervous system a bit, or even just calm students, can be inviting for Shavasana. I can see I'm breaking up. I hope you got that.
I did get it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks. So, different styles. I've been to tons of different classes where we start with 20 minutes of breath work. And so, if that's what you want to do and it, and that's fine. I know that's been our general response. It's like, it's not wrong. It's not, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It sounds so kind of like cliche answering it, because I know you do that, but simply because we have so many different styles, so many lineages, so many teachers, everyone is kind of imparting different information. And so it makes sense that we have yoga that's manifested in so many different forms and styles, and people gravitate towards the styles and the teachers that they like practicing with. So my recommendation has always been, what you like, teach that, and you will attract students who like that too. And that's kind of been my trick, and it's worked thus far. I can't say I've done a class where I did alternate nostril breathing followed by dragon's breath. Can't say that, but I might in the future. And I would hope that teachers would also encourage students to say, if you prefer not to do this, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. For me, breathing is also a very personal thing. Just like we never want to say to a student, you have to do this pose, you also don't have to do this breathing technique. Sorry, let me just, where they see the kids breathe and takes too long. Yeah, so Elaine, have you ever felt it where a teacher, and also it's hard for us to take notes as teachers, where you're saying inhale, and your students like, can I exhale now? And so we kind of think, okay, obviously exhale when you're ready, but sometimes students come in and they'll be hanging on to your every word. So my encouragement would just say, breathe naturally. Often our classes are taught with Ujjayi, or often classes in Vinyasa are taught with Ujjayi, but even if introducing a breath work, you can say, you can come back to regular inhales and exhales through the nose at any time. Reminder, come back to your breath. Naturally, your breathing will slow. Of course, not if you're doing a fast vinyasa. Your breathing rate will increase because of the somewhat like little bit of cardiovascular element to it. But essentially, you can always come back to your breath. Always slow it down and grounding back. Okay. So put the ball in the students' court. It's the same thing when we do anything, empowering your students for their practice. And we're here to maybe introduce breathing styles, or to facilitate, or to remind, or to encourage. That's the tea. That's all I've got to offer today. Cheers, guys. We're going to do some practices, but let's see. And Elaine says she sometimes gets impatient with too much breath in the beginning, prefer it at the end. Once again, preference. Some students may come for a slower and just breathing. Some students might come because they prefer it at the end. It's such a preference, right? Some students want to work on flexibility, some want to work on strength, some want to straight, it's really so different. So it's very difficult for us to also accommodate everyone. So in a vinyasa sense, in the type of sequencing that we've shown you guys, it's also very much set out or laid out in a way that you start with about 5 minutes of grounding, move into your warm-up, work towards a pose, cool down, and then spend a good 5-10 minutes in Shavasana of relaxing. Okay, you can do breathwork in Shavasana. You can also just facilitate and focus on breath without doing an actual technique. Okay. Nice. Any questions? Good. All right, let's go through. I've highlighted 7 types of breathing techniques that we often find in yoga. I don't teach a lot of them, and I'll show you simply how I like to teach them and encourage you to experience it and find a way that serves you. There are a couple in the manual, but so you can definitely read through them in your own time. We're going to do them very briefly. But once again, I'll show you the ones that are probably the most popular, that are also us as teachers can become quite confident in early on, because teaching breathwork, it's a skill. It's really quite refined. So the first 4 that we're going to look at are breathing techniques that I find to be more calming, maybe tapping more into that parasympathetic state. You can do before class and at the end of class, or actually just in your own life when you need to do yoga exams or something like that. So the first one is Ujjayi Breath. So remember, breath work can be both alerting and calming. It depends how we do it. Okay, so we can't always just say breathing calms the nervous system or breathing calms us down. It depends how you're breathing. If I'm hyperventilating, I'm breathing, but it's not calming me down. So Ujjayi breath is our ocean breath or victorious breath. All right, we're all familiar with Ujjayi breath. Cool. How I like, what did someone say? No, we're fine. Okay. How I'm going to talk us through it, because I want to also hear, and maybe in your next classes that you do, you'll start to notice, how do teachers cue breathing? Okay. All I can do is show you guys what has been helpful for me. And the first one is, if I do Ujjayi breath, it's easier to learn it on an exhale than it is on an exhale. So Ujjayi breath is breathing in and out through the nose with a slight constriction in the throat. Okay. I've got you there. Am I breaking up? You guys are freezing, but I just want to know I'm not freezing.
No.
Oh, okay, that's great. Okay, perfect. So lips are sealed, breathing in and out through the nose, soft constriction in the throat. So students, firstly, I like to use the analogy of sounding like an ocean. And also a lot of teachers will use the analogy of fogging up a mirror, that sound. That's what they'll let students kind of think of. So how I like to teach it as a teacher is say, seal the lips, breathe in and out through the nose, soft constriction to the throat, breathe out on an exhale with the constriction to sound like you're fogging up a mirror or simulating the sound of ocean waves. So it's easy to learn on the inhale, exhale, where you go like this. Especially for students who want to learn it. Then when you become comfortable with the exhale, then you can incorporate on the inhale too. Sometimes it's a little bit of a mind game to figure that out, but you can start to create a, I don't know if you can you guys hear it through the Zoom? You guys know this one. So sometimes we get students who will Ujjayi breath really loud. It happens. You'll see it, Dee, you'll laugh. So my cue to that is that, and that's fine. Sometimes they think it's supposed to be that way. It's really supposed to be subtle and audible. But some teachers will say, your neighbor's not supposed to hear you. It's an internal breath. I'm not breathing out to be the loudest in the room. It happens. Wait until you have students fall asleep in your classes. I'd like to see you deal with that. No, it's lovely. I've fallen asleep in a yoga class before because I needed it so much. Whew. So yeah, it's very so Ujjayi breath in some practices like Ashtanga and even some vinyasa classes, they'll cue you to maintain that Ujjayi breath through your whole practice. Some students might do that, some students might not. And so you can start with Ujjayi, they can continue or come regular to natural breathing. That's how I like to cue it. Any questions about Ujjayi? We're all pretty familiar with that. Do you guys feel confident in doing that breathing yourself? Do you guys like it? Yeah.
I like it. I find if you lift your tongue slightly towards the roof of your mouth, at the back of your throat, then it's quite easy to constrict on the inhale and the exhale.
Yeah, actually, without thinking about that, I naturally put my tongue along, well, on the palate in the front. I haven't thought about the back, but you'll probably find, because no one's ever cued me where to put my tongue, I've just done what it naturally did. So that might be helpful as well. It's a really nice one. When I just started meditating, I did that breath because I used the audible sound as a little bit of a sensory marker. So what I like is that it brings you back to your own body. It's a sound. It's just incorporating another sense, just like we did earlier. So that's been really helpful. Okay, the next one that we're going to look at is square breathing. It's also box breath. Have you guys done box breathing before? Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. So it's fairly simple in its nature. It's an inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Anytime there's breath retention, I like to be tread a bit lightly, mostly because I don't want students to hold their breath in a way that it kind of clenches up. Okay, so how I like to teach it, you are welcome to join in on any one of these if you want to feel it, but I think we might be a little bit dazed after 30 minutes of breathing techniques. And I realized I did put all the calming ones first and then invigorating ones after, which maybe wasn't the best idea. So we'll round it up. So square breathing, how I like to cue it is to say, start with breath awareness. Notice your breath. Okay. Then I'll say so I will introduce the breathing, tell them where they're going. I'm going to inhale for a count of 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, while they're breathing naturally. And then I'll say, find a number that works for you. If you feel the count of 4 is too much, bring it down to 3. If you feel it's too little, you can take it up to 5 or 6 for students who are more familiar with breathwork practices. I'll also say, slow down, focus on the inhale and exhales. The retention doesn't have to be very long. You can do more of a rectangle that's like 4, 2, 4, 2. Nothing wrong with that. Particularly because I found in my body, I didn't like Everyone says he likes the counting. Yeah, you kind of need an internal timer, like an internal ticker. So let's go through a moment together. So if you want to join me, or you can just listen, find a comfortable seat. We've brought awareness to our breath. Continue to breathe normally. And in today's practice, we are going to do a box breath or square breathing, which can continue to breathe normally, but just to explain where we're going, it's an inhale of 4, a hold for 4, an exhale for 4, and a hold for 4. All right. You'll use your own internal timer. I will lead you through the first one, but feel free to adjust the numbers lower or higher on a way that feels fit. Right? If you feel that holding the breath isn't working for you today, then simply just inhale for 4 and exhale for 4. So let's go through the first one together. What works really nicely is just to synchronize our breath. So let's take a nice big inhale together and an exhale. On your next inhale, we'll breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4. Exhale 2, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4. Good. Continue on your inhale. So find your own little internal timer. Feel free to adjust your numbers, adjust your holds as needed. And the intention of our breath is to really feel a lengthening in the inhales and the exhales equally. Finish the round that you're on and then do one more. When you're done, you can release your hands, open your eyes to signal that you've finished the last round. What was that face for, Matt? It's got a shocked face. Was that your breathing face? Breathing emoji. I wanted to add, because I actually saw, I can't remember who it is, but somewhere in our beginning, someone yawned. If it was you, you don't have to tell me, someone yawned. It doesn't matter. Maybe a lot of you did. But when we yawn, we like try to cover our mouth, we kind of like hide it, you know. We're like, no, sorry, we have to be, now everyone's gonna yawn because I said it. I and a student embrace the yawn, like just take a nice deep breath and sigh. You know, sighs are sometimes seen as quite rude, maybe, or people think that you're being, sometimes just a good sigh feels good. Okay, so feel free, if the students want to sigh it out, even when I tell students to sigh, I don't mind making a because your students will only do it sometimes if you really do it, but that little breath release sometimes feels so nice. So in a yawn, if students yawn in class, and just say, no, embrace the yawn, breathe, it feels good, right? Sometimes we try to trap it in. Okay, how do we feel about that box breath? What were your thoughts on, if you like it? Do you like the way that this is taught? Did it work for you? Little bit of a quick run through. Oh, Sinead?
Mine is actually specifically related to the yawn because it was me. I tend to yawn a lot, like doing the breath work a lot. And I'm always like, I hide it because I feel so embarrassed. But when we were doing meditation last week, I was yawning like crazy because I feel like when I stop focusing on it, my body just I go into like yawning sequences and I just can't stop.
I don't think it's a bad thing for me. And, you know, I'd have to do my research more thoroughly on this, but just my little hypothesis is that if I'm yawning, I feel like my body's relaxing. So I feel like that's kind of a good thing, right? Or maybe my body's desperately needing more air, one of the other. But generally, yawns feel good. You know, you'll know what kind of yawn you're doing. But I don't necessarily, if someone yawned in my class, I don't see it as a sign of boredom, never, ever. So that's kind of the stigma, is that we like, oh, you're yawning, it means you're bored. Not at all. Maybe I'm tired. Maybe I'm relaxed. Maybe I'm, so I would encourage my students to yawn. I think that's fine. Yeah, so it's sign, don't suppress them. Let them go. Let them breathe. We're going to leave here and just go, breathing, just yawn. It's okay. Okay, so we're all okay with box breath. When you start teaching, I find that just the inhale, exhale, start with that, the counting and a little bit of a timer. I don't like using a timer or a clap or something, because I want to encourage students to adjust theirs. The main intention is just to bring awareness, slow down inhales, exhales. But once again, just to add on that before I get to you, Matt, is that if you have a group of students that you know really well, then you can definitely do that. If you know your students, you know that they want to learn more breath work, you know that they've been working on things over time, you can definitely incorporate it and then just check on how do you feel. If you ever feel tired or not tired, if you ever feel a little bit dizzy or lightheaded, just stop, return, and just monitor that as such. It's never happened to me in a class that I've had any situation like that, but it's good to know. Matt.
Darren, is the idea to, within that 4 count or whatever count it is, to fill a full inhale, sort of max capacity inhale within 4 counts? Or just a normal?
Yeah, so there's that kind of that, we hardly use the full capacity of our lungs. So really it is just about getting a little bit more. For students who become more comfortable in their breath work, they'll definitely be able to do that, maybe 6, and really kind of like sip in air until you're full, and then hold at full capacity, and then exhale till empty, and then hold on empty. So I would say relatively full. It doesn't have to be 100% capacity. I don't know if we'll be able to tell when at 100%, but I think inhale to a point that you feel you can hold at, because sometimes I find if I breathe in too much, kind of like holding on. So you can kind of find a nice middle ground, and you can definitely build up to it over time for sure. Work with 3, then 4, then 5, and you'll adjust it so you can work to a fuller capacity with leeway. Yeah. Cool. Ari?
I just want to know, with your box breath, do you use the Ujjayi breath, or is it just normal breathing?
I think you could do both. I do it normally. I'm just going to run through it now because I've never actually thought about that.
It's quite similar to, I've done quite a lot of the Art of Living programs. I don't know if you know them. So it's very breath-based, and the breathing leads you into your meditations, and it's all the Ujjayi breath. It's a very similar rhythmic. If yours is a box, they do a triangle. Slightly different, but it's all the Ujjayi breath. But so I found this quite interesting as a combination as well.
Yeah. So, whether you're doing box or triangle, I think both are definitely beneficial. I think you could do it with Ujjayi or regular, depending on your students. If students are still struggling to grasp the concept of Ujjayi, maybe regular breathing in and out is nice to just get the rhythm of the breath. I actually think Ujjayi is quite nice because the constriction of the throat naturally slows the breath down. And so you do feel like it stretches it out. So it's a really nice entry point into that. So I would say, I really like that, the combination of them, for sure. The Art of Living programs are incredible. I've met a couple of the teachers as well. So really nice, all different practices, different workshops that bring into this. I mean, you get conscious breath work, which is more, really gets into strong breathing techniques. So you can dive pretty deep into breath work. It's really, really interesting. Okay, let me go through the next 2, and then I'm going to go quickly over the others because they're not types that I often do a lot in class. Okay, the next one is Nadi Shodhana, or also known as alternate nostril breathing, annulum velum. You guys know this one, right? Okay. Cool. Yes, you guys know it. All right, so let's run through it. We're not going to practice it. I actually did a really interesting workshop where they were saying that, or the student, or the teacher who was doing it, I was one of the students, was saying that you would practice this for 3 to 7 minutes. So this particular style or this breathing practice is really beneficial for a long period of time. I find the more I do it, the more meditative it comes. So there's a couple of different hand variations. I always used to instruct to do my right hand, but I do know if you're left-handed, sometimes you feel more comfortable doing your dominant hand. So who's left-handed here? Where's Belinda? Which one do you prefer? And Laura, which one do you guys prefer? Your left hand, your dominant hand? Either one. Okay, students will say, so I generally encourage right hand, but if the student's left-handed, it's okay. Index and middle finger goes onto your forehead. You can also fold it in. Some teachers also teach a different mudra with the hand, but I find that keeping it quite simple in the hand is fine. Then you've got your ring finger and your pinky finger that come towards your left nostril. Your thumb comes towards your right, okay? So the general pattern, blocking right, inhale left, block left, exhale right. Now that that's open, inhale right, block right, exhale left. That's one cycle, okay? So you're inhaling, exhale. You can also work with a count and try to really stretch that out. So this was a breath work that was done to balance the nervous system, specifically with your nadis running along the Sushumna. So it was your Pingala and your Ida, and it was a cleansing or purification type of breath work. Is there anyone who hasn't done this type of breath work before? Have we all done it? Amazing. Okay, cool. So we don't need to run through it now. I would love to, but I'm very aware that we have 20 minutes. I love this breath work for slower style. So in yin yoga, this is one that I like using, but also because of its link to the energy, which plays a big role in a yin yoga practice. I do find that meditation of the energy flow is somewhat helpful, just as a bit of a somatic marker as well. And I also find that, having the hand over the face is quite introspective. That's kind of my experience. Anyone else want to share thoughts, feelings, responses to this type of breath work? Lovely, cool, flowing through these. So what I recommend is practicing them, experiencing them, and then teaching the ones you like. Alice says this is her favorite. Me too. I really love this one. I find that you get into a flow. So this one, I would opt to do it a little bit longer. Sometimes we just kind of go towards, and once again, you say to students, when you exhale on your left, that's the end of a cycle. And so when you have had enough, you release. Often this hand gets tired. So sometimes holding the elbow is helpful. Okay, give your students that prop. It is something, especially if it's new and the first time they're doing it. And once again, students build up in capacity over time. And so bear that in mind, that they can, like I said earlier, when you're done or you finish your round, you can just release your hands, open your eyes. That signifies that they're done. Okay, the last one that I'd like to show you is 3-part breathing. So very similar what we did with 4-part, but now we're relating this to the lungs in the sense that we're imagining we've cut the lungs up into 3 compartments, okay? So we know that the lung on the right side has 3 lobes, the one on the left only has 2 because it makes space, it has space for the heart. But this is more like a metaphorical first part, 3-part, second part, 3-part, okay? What I find that this helps is it differentiates between breathing into the lower part of the lung, so more towards the belly, rib cage, and then up into the lungs here around the collarbone, shoulder. So you'll find a lot of students will breathe with their shoulders. So we're almost directing that breath down and really bringing it towards the lungs, a little bit of belly. This actually got nothing to do with anything, but have you guys seen when kids breathe in, they breathe in and suck their belly in? Sometimes we get into this habit as well, that as adults, when we breathe in, it means belly comes in. And we kind of need to rewrite this pattern that, no, when I breathe in, my belly moves out because I'm breathing into my belly. Have you guys felt that before? Did that happen to you, or is it just me? Never happened to you before. Nicole says yes. Yeah, so if you find, sometimes you breathe in and you find you're drawing your belly in. Okay, so you might simply use just belly breath, which is breathe in, belly draws away from the spine, and then exhale, belly draws toward the spine. Okay. Just a little side note. It's more something I picked up in kids yoga. Okay, so 3-part breathing. You can do it full or half. So you'll start breathing, inhale to the bottom third, and then you kind of like breathe in, sip, and then breathe in second, third, pause, breathe in third, pause, and then a nice slow exhale. Okay, so you've got that really stretched out. So that's kind of like a half 3-part. You can do it both ways. You can do full inhale into belly or all 3 parts. Exhale, release the top third. Exhale, release the second third. Exhale, release the last bit. Okay, so you can do the 3-part on the inhale, normal exhale, full inhale, 3-part on the exhale, or 3-part inhale and exhale. Does that make sense? What I like though is because when students start doing breath work, it's sometimes hard to slow down the inhale and the exhale. We sometimes use the full inhale and then and then we suddenly need to like gasp for breath. So for students, sometimes having a normal breath in between is helpful. Give them that opportunity, definitely get them to breathe. But I find I actually like the 3-part on the exhale because I like slowing the exhale down to really calm the body. But either way is fine. Do you guys understand that little pattern? Does that make sense? You can also start the class doing 3-part inhale, slow exhale, and then end the class doing nice inhale, 3-part exhale. So it's a nice way to come full circle. Okay, any questions about those breathing techniques? A little bit more calming. You can do, just a bit of a side note, you can do these in seated, you can do them in lying, you can do them with legs up against the wall. Doesn't really matter. You can do them with arms on the side, you can do it with hands on the belly, you can do it 1 hand belly, 1 hand chest. Any combination is really fine. Okay. All happy. Are we feeling calm after our breathing? Okay. I've actually only highlighted 2 that I wanted to speak about with more of your alerting breaths. So the first one is Kapalabhati, and the second one is Bastrika or bellows breath. All right. Have you guys done Kapalabhati before? Anyone who's done a Hot 26 Bikram class? Good. All right, amazing. For those who have done, let's experience it, or let's talk about it first and then share experiences, because each breathing technique serves a purpose. So in certain hot styles, it's done quite repetitively. So the Kapalabhati is characterized, or it includes very what is the word? A sharp exhale and a passive inhale. So I'm focusing on exhaling and the inhale comes naturally, okay? It's generally, well, I've actually seen it done 2 ways. The way I learned it was with lips sealed in and out through the nose, and it's not happening in my shoulder. The belly is doing this, okay? It's a really like constriction of the belly in, but I've also been into classes where they've done it on like a shh, 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 shh kind of thing. So you imagine if you had to put your hands, and maybe you guys want to do it with me. You put your hands on kind of like what we do with our rib cage, but a little bit of belly as well. That's how I like to feel it. And then just take a nice full inhale into your hands and a nice exhale. Okay. Continue to breathe as usual. So you want to feel that the shoulders are nice and relaxed. When we start to breathe, it's a sharp exhale. So just focus on that. You can start slowly and just go. And you're trying to pull the navel towards the spine. So you're like squeezing is the only analogy. So how it would look, you would usually start with an inhale, and the teacher obviously, I want to say, I haven't taught this breath a lot because it hasn't always been my favorite. I've actually practiced it a lot. So teachers will either click, clap, or they'll just say, do 30 and then stop. So you'll start with, once again, linking the breath, full inhale and full exhale. Full breath in. And then pause. And in some styles, they'll do 2 rounds, okay? I find the breath quite cathartic, quite releasing, and I do find it quite invigorating. I do see its purpose in a hot yoga class because you end on it and I feel like you're just kind of cooling the body. So that's my personal experience of it. What for those who have tried it, what is your experience? For those who just did it now, Ruan's like, this is his favorite. What do you love most about it, Ruan? I'm just going to turn my light on. It's very dark. Did you want to share something, Ruan? You're not muted, but it's not working. Do you want to type in the chat and I can share? I just can't do it as fast. Oh, no. So I was just doing it fast to show you. So in some classes, that's the pace, but you can start quite slow. But I'm not focusing on, the focus is on the exhale. Okay, you guys like this. Mick, did you want to add something?
Yeah, so I've actually in a few classes done it where you inhale, raise the hands, and then when you exhale, you hit into the ribs. So you actually squeeze it out and then up, down, and then doing rounds like 9, 18, 27. So I've also done it like that. Yes, yeah. Done it in Kundalini and Ishta.
Yeah. So Kundalini Ishta styles very much do this breath. So that's what I often link with bellows or Bastrika, which is a sharp inhale and sharp exhale. So did you find that? But I think either you can do Kapalabhati with arm movements for sure. I think in this Kundalini style, it's a lot more kriyas and breath work that they do incorporate. That kind of breath.
There's water out there. Where's the KOS?
So you'll often do. So in Kundalini practices movement, quite repetitive movements with breath work. Really, just by show of hands, who's done a Kundalini class before? Oh, yeah. I 100% recommend trying every style. I love Kundalini. I find it incredibly challenging from a psychological component, like really quite. I found it really challenging.
It's tough, but amazing. Kundalini is cool.
Yes. So I would highly recommend, I even did a class on Allo Moves if you guys aren't back in studios, but the more different styles you choose, the more you get to really explore and see how yoga is in different ways. So thanks, Mick, that was amazing and insightful. Anyone else want to share about the Kapalabhati? Was anyone a Bikram practitioner, a hot yoga practitioner before? Because that's the only time I've done it in class. Let's quickly try Ruan, see if your sound works, and then Elaine. Oh, well, you're going to ask a question. Let's see if your sound is working.
Is this better now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, my sound was just very soft. So the reason why I like this one, I guess, is just I've practiced most of these, and in my body, this one just feels the best. So it's just one of those things. And also the version with using the nose, I prefer to the Bikram one, which is the shh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, it's kind of gross, but it's very cleansing. If you're sitting at home, you're blowing out through your nose. I'm going to stop it there.
No, that's cool. Look, if you're doing these breathing practices at home, that's fine. If you know your experience at home, also just know that in class, because the next time you're teaching this, obviously a lot of these breathing practices, if a student's coming in a little bit sick, I was like, even pre-COVID, if someone came in a little bit sick, now we'll not even let them in the door. But if someone just came in with a bit of sinuses, I would just encourage regular breathing. If they can, in and out through the nose, otherwise regular breathing through the mouth, just get them to breathe. That is probably the main thing. So, okay. So the Bastrika or bellows breath was, the bellows was kind of like what you used to do to light ignite the fire, or to ignite the flames a bit more. So sharp inhale and sharp exhale. So I kind of liken it to an accordion, like great for tummy muscles. Yeah, in Kundalini, you're sitting, not in Kundalini, in a lot of yoga classes or different styles, you're sitting on your knees, and you are, after a while, you're squeezing those abdominals in so tight that your tummy does start to work quite a bit. So yeah, I think that if you encourage students to choose their own pace, I think it can be yeah, quite helpful just to encourage them to start off slow and build up to it. Good. Are there any other breathing techniques that you guys have done that you've really enjoyed, that you've gravitated towards, Ruan?
The only other one that I've done is actually a combination with Bastrika, but slightly different. So you would go do that as Bastrika, and then at the end you would do Kumbhaka, which is
and hold.
And just hold, yeah, or exhale and hold, and then basically hold that. Try and hold that for a minute, and then at the end of the minute, take a deep inhale and hold that for 10, and then let go. That's the only other one.
Yeah. So Kumbhaka, hold on inhale or exhale. I used to practice at a studio where we did all kinds of different things, especially so you would breathe, take a nice full inhale, and then exhale, hold, and then draw belly in, and then it's kind of like Uddiyana Bandha, and then you would hold and then pump. So at a lot of different studios, you can do a lot of different things. That's a type of breathing breathing technique that I would encourage that you learn a bit more from in teaching and in practice. But yeah, some really, really powerful. And I've actually from teachers who are so incredibly insightful and who really have a strong breathwork practice. Because I think about us and we had to say, oh, do you have a breathwork practice? You'd probably say, yeah, I breathe in yoga, or maybe I breathe in meditation, but we don't often put aside a whole practice just for breathwork. It's often in this sense linked a lot to our postures or our meditation. So I think for us as teachers, we think, okay, how can we weave this in? How can we bring in the mindfulness? How can we introduce these techniques quite efficiently and safely? And yeah, that's pretty much that. Anyone else have any questions? I mean, it could be with regards to breathing in general, or was this insight? Did you feel as though you might be more inclined to teach breathwork now? Actually, no, I love putting up hands because it's a good sign. Who would have taught breathwork, let's say this week, who felt comfortable teaching breathwork? Yeah, because Ari, you've done also some additional courses, which are definitely helpful. Highly recommend doing a little bit extra. Amazing. There's a recommendation. You can take that in the chat. Who feels a little bit more empowered now? Maybe a little bit more questioning and practice, but do you feel like you would incorporate a bit now? Little bit. That's fine. My recommendation with everything is to start slowly, to start with what you know and what you feel comfortable with, and to start with awareness. And then all of these ones have somewhat an element of breath control in them. So we're essentially telling the breath what to do, which in its own can be very powerful. But I found the first thing we did, that's been my absolute key in and also to remind myself that these techniques work on me too. So you need to, that moment we go take a deep breath, we need to do it to ourselves as well. I'm just reading. Yeah, I think that when you bring the breathwork and the meditation with the class, you really feel a more full rounded flow. There was one point I wanted to make, and before I give us 15 minutes before we go to our peak post sequencing chat, just give me a moment to dive deep into my brain archives and see where I put it. It was definitely something with teaching breath. Can't for the life of me remember, but I'll definitely let you guys know if I do. Okay, wonderful. Are we all happy? Oh, our nervous system's calm. Okay, let's go into the peak post sequencing chat with a calm nervous system. All right, let's take 15 minutes and